The news of the very popular text editor Notepad++ being compromised in some form should be of concern to anyone who uses it. After all, that does not sound good, especially when you learn that it was in fact a Chinese-backed state actor who carried out the, quote, hijacking. Maybe even the man himself had a hand in this deceit. Being a little overzealous with that one. Of course, she had personally nothing to do with this situation. Probably. It is true that a CCP-backed state group known as Violet Typhoon had managed to compromise the hosting server for the in-app update feature between June and December of 2025. That's right, for 6 months. If you used the in-application feature to update Notepad++, you were very likely exposed to the possibility of being compromised. However, this specific hijacking is not as spooky as it could have been for the average Joe. Let me explain. For one, this attack was highly specific in who was targeted. From what we have been told so far, and this is so far, as it has only been a few days since the compromisation of servers that hosted the Notepad++ updates was made public, the hijacking was focused on compromising systems connected to certain organisations as reported by the Hacker News, and so far these organisations have not been named. However, these organisations seemed to have been based in East Asia and were involved within the financial sector. There were reports of systems having been compromised in Central America as well as Australia, but unless you are involved within that area of business in these geographical locations, you are much less likely to have been affected. This hijacking seems to have been made possible thanks to one main reason. The group who enacted this hijacking, Violent Typhoon, has managed to infiltrate the hosting provider that serviced users updating their application from the in-app update feature. This allowed them to redirect specific users to an alternative malicious download, which in turn allowed the attackers to achieve remote code execution on the victim's machine. The codebase of Notepad++ was never compromised, which would have been much worse as it would have affected far more users. But compromising an open source program like Notepad++ is a difficult thing to pull off for any serious amount of time. So rest assured, the actual code base for Notepad++ has kept its integrity. The ability to compromise the updater within the application and redirect specific traffic to a malicious updated version of the application was thanks to the exploitation of vulnerable code involved with code signing within the older versions of the Notepad++ updater, WinGup. Notepad++ has since replaced WinGup and has issued an official statement for those who think they may have been affected, namely to reinstall the application through a new manual install downloaded directly from the official website. 8.8.9 I believe is the updated version, or at this time is the most up-to-date version. What's important to note about this hijacking was the specificity in its targeting. It seems, at least currently, with the information that we have access to right now, that this was limited in scope to very specific targets, and like I said previously, these targets were mainly based in Asia, within a few specific businesses and organisations, with a few users being compromised in Australia and Central America. This could have easily been many times larger in the total amount of infections, and the danger of this possibility is only compounded by the fact that this hijacking allowed for remote code execution on the infected machine, the big no-no in the world of security. Not gonna lie, this had me reinstalling Notepad++ on my Windows machine real quick, but the lesson here is in knowing that it's not if your system gets compromised, but when, and how you plan to respond to that possibility. Shorter video today, more of an infomercial than anything, just letting you know of these developments. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.